and welcome back to Dynamics Unplugged and another edition of Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain, Dynamics A to Z. And today we're back with the letter G, and G is for grid capabilities and grid control. This is a really powerful feature that gives users the ability to not only manipulate but control their data, be able to filter and highlight and create meaningful insights out of their data, similar to the features you have available in the world's largest ERP system, Microsoft Excel. What are those efficiencies we can gain? What are those things that every single user can take advantage of? To start off and highlight some of the capabilities, I will use the inventory transactions form. It's really useful to showcase some of the options that the user has to take advantage of. For example, one of the things you might often do with a data set like this, where there's lots of columns and different rows, is you might want to filter, you might want to freeze columns, you might want to aggregate certain columns and create some values. You might want to group in different ways or hide certain sets of data. So now a lot of that is available directly in Dynamics, where you don't have to export this to Excel to gain that access. I right click on the item number, I can freeze this column. So that's very useful as I navigate through large forms that have many different columns, because I might be adding columns here like customer account or vendor account. I might be adding different fields or attributes that aren't available, and I want to keep the main identifier or unique reference of this particular data set, which is my item number. So I froze that column. Then I'm going to go ahead and filter on my reference field. I'm going to take a look at a particular scenario, which is purchase orders that have come in and been registered into stock by the warehouse, physically received, but not had a packing slip posted, not had a product receipt acknowledged, which means there's no physical cost or ownership on us. What essentially has been put into inventory, but hasn't been recognized. And this might be useful for a buyer or somebody doing a matching process. So I'll filter on a receipt status of registered. So I have 72 rows of purchase order lines that have been registered but not received, not had that product receipt posted. And now there might be several other things I would want to do. Perhaps I want to group by warehouse. So I can actually split these up by warehouse. I can see there's a bunch of different ones out there that have transactions in them. So we're now grouped. We have in site 1, we have 9 orders. In site 2, we have 51 orders. In site 3, we have 7. Site 4, 1. Site 6, 4. So we've grouped by a column. Now we might want to also aggregate by a column. Maybe you want to see the quantity added up. So we can go to view column totals, and I have a bunch of different options available to me. You can do a straight sum, just show me the sum quantity for all rows and groups that I've referenced here. So I would have subtotals as well by site in this instance, since I've grouped by my site column. Or I could have minimum values, maximum values, and average. I'll do sum, and we'll immediately see that those 72 rows have been added. I have a total quantity of 5,518 units that have been registered but not received. And then I see my subtotals at the site level. So 460 for site 1, 911 for site 2, and so on. Really useful, really easy for me to gain those insights as a user in any form I'm capable of grouping with. So we see the immediate kind of access on a grid form, but there's might be a lot of other things I want to do with this information. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to a different section. We're going to take a look at a use case of trade agreement journals and something you might want to be doing within the system to save you some time and effort that you might have otherwise done manually. We'll bring open a trade agreement journal by going to the lines, and you can see here I haven't added anything yet, but I might be entering many different trade agreements at the same time if I'm updating prices quarterly or monthly, or a vendor gives me a whole new set of price updates for their particular products. And one of the really great use cases for grid capabilities is the copy and paste from Excel. So here I have 4 lines of different item numbers and then site and warehouse that I want to create trade agreement lines for. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that data. We're going to go back into D365. I'm going to select the cell that I want to start pasting into. So you can see it's in the same format here, item, site, and warehouse. And I'm going to hit Control V and paste it. And you can see immediately it pastes those 4 rows and it starts to process them. It has this row processor icon that tells me those specific rows of data are being populated and haven't been validated yet. And I also get a message, do I want to save those changes? So if I click save here, it's going to attempt to now truly create these lines and validate if there's any missing mandatory information or rules that have been broken. I'll go ahead and click save. You can see the rest of the information has defaulted and the processing icon has been removed. Those 4 lines have been added. So really easily I've done a copy and paste and not had to add all of those cells and the data that goes into them individually. That's really going to save me a lot of time as an end user, whether I'm a buyer or somebody in customer service, or even somebody just doing doc and data control and building out something like a bill of material or a bunch of new products. Another thing that I could highlight in this form is the ability to do math expressions directly in a cell. So for example, if I'm entering prices and there was just an increase by a certain percentage across all items from a particular vendor, I can actually do that directly here in these cells as well. So I'll say equals 5 times 35 and click enter, and the math will actually happen automatically in that cell and populate the value for me. So something else that could save me a lot of time, that makes it a lot more usable and user friendly for all of the Dynamics licensed staff that you have. This has really endless use cases. I showed a few simple ones with the inventory transactions and inputting information into something like journal lines for trade agreements. But really, each user in every department could take advantage of this type of functionality and save themselves a lot of time, whether you're coming from a legacy version of Dynamics or a different ERP that might not have had this type of functionality set. And it's a really good example of Microsoft leveraging their full suite of products and taking what really works well in one set of products and putting it in the core of other features like Dynamics, and really enhance the business experience for the platform. So that is the letter G, and this has been another episode of Dynamics A to Z in D365 Finance and Supply Chain Management. See you next time.